Okay, it's Thursday, April 25th. Welcome to the South Kingstown School Building Committee. We'll call the meeting to order at 4:04. And we'll just take roll call around the room. Dave Pelzetti.
Aye.
Brian Sylvia. Here. Kate Massanti, I'm here. Luke Murray. Here. Chip McGarrett. Here. Terry. I almost called you Terry Martin.
Here.
Sorry. Terry. Town Manager Manny.
Here.
And we have Chris Spiegel in attendance from left field. And just to start off, do we want to add to the agenda that we're
Yeah, I wanted to make a motion to add an update on project finances. Please.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Alrighty. Luke, do you want to just start with that, or do you want me to?
So I just wanted to give an update to the building committee. Brian and I had a good meeting with both Steve Masaroni from PFM and Bill Trimble from RIDE, because there's been some questions with regards to PAYGO and how that works. We wanted to validate because some of our numbers were not adding up under the basic formula calculations that they put out under their guidance documents. So one big thing that we got back is if anybody logs into the RIDE website, they have an Excel spreadsheet that you can calculate PAYGO. It's a pretty simple calculation how it's like that. That spreadsheet doesn't work for our project. And the reason is that they changed one of the calculation functions on there. So essentially, if you calculate the way we should have gotten PAYGO, it represents as high, right? And I want to be clear, that doesn't mean our reimbursement, is higher or lower. It's just how it was calculated. When we were calculating it, it didn't come out to what we expected. Upon follow-up, we realized that Bill expressed to us that they had so many projects, and that $250 million bond was getting stretched thin. They lowered a little bit of the PAYGO for certain projects. They basically downgraded just the PAYGO. Again, I want to make sure I'm clear on this. That doesn't mean we got downgraded on our reimbursement at all. It's just they calculated out PAYGO, specifically that upfront. I like the term he used, advanced housing aid, because that's really what it is. They're just advancing housing aid to us. Instead of 15% of the 35% base rate, it's 13.1% of the 35% base rate. So that comes out to the $9.7 million, which is exactly what we've been putting out to the public, which is exactly what's on our letter from RIDE for approval. So that question was answered. We finally figured out that mysterious calculation. We feel comfortable with it. And that's also the number that's been in all the calculations that PFM has provided us as far as calculating future bond debt and what we're going to hope for long-term over the 20-year duration. So that was sort of. The next question that has come up is, okay, we put out there $81 million with principal and interest that we expect to get back on the project for reimbursement from the state. And that is correct, and that is inclusive of PAYGO. So some people have said, that doesn't include PAYGO, that does include, that's part of the amount. It's not against that, so that's good. Correct. Okay. So that is all included in the $81 million. The way PAYGO works is it is sort of a reimbursement base, so we do have to output money in the first stages of the project in order to get that money. So they don't just take money. We don't get a check on day one for $9.7 million. Essentially, we lay out a certain amount of money, respectively, if we put a bin for the first year. We would then put in for a reimbursement from RIDE, and our first wave of money, we'd get $9.7 million back. Traditionally, you would get a portion of a 20-year period. We do have an option. I don't want to get too confusing. We do have an option in long-term planning. If we didn't want to take the PAYGO, we could lower the whole amount of that. The way we've structured it, and we've said this before, and we've said it once ago, is that the reason we kept it out of the legislation was to provide maximum flexibility for the town and the town council to allocate those funds for a variety of things, whether it be needed contingency, because escalation is showing that the project is too much, whether it be to put it down on the debt to lower the overall tax impact. It could be used for other school projects approved as part of our stage 2, and use that in a revolving fund to kind of leverage that money, and money would continue to get back from loan. That is all going to be up to council at a later date. I want to be clear that we'll have time to make those decisions. So all of these things, respectively, if the bond were to go forward after May 7th, we'd be making up a project, and to what Chris laid out earlier, we would have a price on the project because we're calling the construction manager at risk. So we will know what our prospective project cost is before we lay out any dollars. So at that point, we can revisit the discussion on, do we really need the playground for contingency? And if not, how else would we use it? And that's a decision, again, that we brought to council with all of the relevant information, and then we have to make an educated decision based on that. Did I miss anything? No, that's very good. Okay. So with that, if we have any questions? Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our new business items. We'll have a discussion. There should be no action other than potentially setting a next meeting and agenda items. So this is all should be up for discussion. So we have discussion, update on construction manager at-risk selection process. Chris, if you want to take that on.
So, sure. So thank you, Kate. Thank you, everyone, for having me again. As this committee is aware, we sent out a public procurement, an RFQ/P, that's request for qualifications and pricing for construction manager at risk with a guaranteed maximum price. That's that guaranteed maximum price that Luke was talking to. From construction management firms, this was publicly bid on procurement. The Julie Mason and the town's procurement office handled all of the operational details of this procurement. We had 5 well-qualified firms submit proposals on this work. All firms were pre-qualified by the Rhode Island Department of Education, and all 5 firms have extensive backgrounds in delivering high school projects in New England. I should also say that we were very happy to get 5 projects. This is more firms than that's submitted on Warwick. It's more firms than submitted on Middletown. It's more firms than submitted on Pawtucket High School. We think that speaks to the attractiveness of this project from the construction management point of view in terms of it's got a great site, it's got a great budget. So, having said that, in order to qualify the firms, we ask that firms submit their pricing proposals in sealed separate envelopes. The reason for that being is we wanted the 7 members of the construction management selection team to review the qualifications based on qualifications alone, to not have the price perhaps put in a subjective spin on the qualifications process. Having done so after that, we then met as a group. Everyone forwarded me their scores. They scored the proposals individually. I was the only person to receive all of the scores. Those scores were given to me. I entered them into the qualifications matrix. It's very similar to the one that we did for the designer selection team, and yes, it will be available on the website, as well as proposals from the construction manager that we decided to shortlist as the financial information. So the result of that was that we received qualification scores from, again, the members of the construction manager selection team are Dave Paulzetti, Andrew Miller, Robert Calnetta, Sarah Brown, Renee Driscoll, Counselor Sweet, and then Chip McCary. To give you a little bit of background on some of these members, Andrew Miller, as you know, Dave, Andrew Miller works for a construction management firm, Turner, that doesn't do a lot of work down here in Rhode Island, so he's obviously very qualified. Bob Catnetta, he owns a historic preservation firm that does a ton of work here in Rhode Island, working with some of these museums. Sarah Brown is a capital projects manager at Northeastern University and a former architect in previous life as well. And Renee Driscoll works at another construction management firm, actually the firm that built Southwest Hospital, East. So, and of course, Counselor Sweet, Joseph McGair, and Dave is over at URI. So it's incredibly talented, a very, very well-qualified group. Left Field is responsible for making sure that all of the required documents have been submitted. We review the contract comments, the MBE, WBE participation. We look at legal proceedings, and we also review the references. once all of these scores have been inputted, I then add in the pricing proposals for each of the firms. This is by far the closest that I've ever seen construction managers do this. So I think that speaks well to the drawings. Like Studio Jade is dropped as part of this project, but they're very tight. There's not a lot of holes in the drawings, even at this very early stage. The difference between the bids was below, for the four firms that we did not need to really level their bids, the difference was $300,000, which is pretty, Dave will tell you, Dave's done a lot of these procurements recently, that's pretty exceptional to have a delta of less than 2%. So, having said that, the following three firms were elected to be shortlisted. Gilbane Building Company from Providence, Rhode Island, Divian from Providence, Rhode Island, and Stringer from Providence, Rhode Island. Those three firms will be interviewing on next Thursday, May 2nd. Interviews will start at 5 o'clock p.m. in this building. They will be live streamed and recorded. The recording will be available on the project website, as we did for the designer selection team as well. It is a public meeting, however, we do ask that if the public does participate, that the construction manager selection team becomes the same. To do it if they like. Interviews will be 1 hour for each firm. 40 minutes will be given to presentation, and an additional 15 minutes to address questions from the construction manager selection team. As we did with the designer selection team, we review a series of questions that will be sending ahead to each of the firms. These have to do with capacity, logistics, how they're going to prioritize some Keystone project, their approach to closeout, all of these sorts of items. Those will be addressed within their presentations. At the end of that presentation, all the presentations, the construction manager selection team will then score each of the firms on the following categories: overall impressions, team chemistry, response to sent questions, so it's questions that we sent ahead, and then response to ad hoc questions, so any questions that might come up as a result of doing the presentations. There are 50 points available during this part of the procurement. I should note that the difference between the top-ranked firm and of the shortlisted, the difference is less than 10 points. So, interview is just like it was with designer selection. Interview is going to play a real big role in the ultimate selected for this project. I'm happy to answer any questions on the construction manager selection process to date. Otherwise, again, great turnout. I wish we could have interviewed all 5 firms. They were really selected proposals in that. And as I said before, any one of these firms is well qualified to do this.
Does anybody have questions for Chris? No questions? All right. That brings us to our next business item, which is update on public engagement. So we've had a couple opportunities for public engagement, and before we talk about the forums, I did want to talk about an opportunity that myself, Chris, and Mr. Mahoney had just this morning at Camden's. We were invited to the Rotary Club's meeting. And first of all, every day should start the way a Rotary Club meeting starts. It was amazing and awesome and happy, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So it was a great experience just in general. So many civic-minded people in our community. Sometimes we get lost in the chaos of our own meetings, and then you get to go to this experience where people are just doing wonderful things for the good of doing wonderful things. It was great. That said, it was a great opportunity for us to share information with a good-sized cohort. 30 or so?
Yeah, about 30 people.
And they just actively had questions. They themselves knew some of the information that was out in the public was not entirely accurate. We did a really good job of, again, just like our forums, maintaining information only. Here are your facts. They asked very engaging questions, clarifying questions. We had a really good opportunity to communicate with the folks, and it was a really good experience. And I'm going to then take the opportunity to lead that into our most recent public forum that took place last Saturday at the high school. I personally was not able to be in attendance, so I'm going to let the folks who were there, which I believe was Mr. Mahoney, Mr. Manny, and Mr. Littlefield. I'm not sure who else was there, but I'll let you guys kind of discuss. Oh, Mr. Sylvia. And Dave was there too, yeah? So let you guys discuss how it went, what you felt about the experience, and then we can go from there. Who wants to go first?
I'll start first. Mr. Littlefield started speaking the other day. First of all, I'll take it this time. It was a great turnout. Again, I think we had probably roughly similar to the first turnout, about 50, 60 people in the crowd. One of the unique things I brought up the other day was we had a family there who had a 3 or 4 month old baby, and we had people in the older stages of life. So we had every range of person at the meeting coming up with generational knowledge of the town. And a lot of great topics and ideas came up. And I want to thank Mr. Conti for presenting. He did a great job answering all the questions came up. And town manager, Brian and Sylvia. A lot of people wrote, again, just like the first forum, but a lot of great information and questions to us. And it was a great time.
In addition to those you thanked, I want to thank the superintendent for they did a great job kind of explaining the concept of school surpluses and budgets and things like that. And it kind of clarified a lot of confusion. I think you did an excellent job. That's really impressive.
Similarly to what Brian had stated, very similar turnout. A lot of questions. I think we had more questions at this forum than the first one. Very inquisitive bunch this time. Good back and forth. I think all the questions were addressed and answered. It was a very positive session.
I was impressed that the questions we got in both of these, with the last one was really good. I mean, a lot of those people there, I think, were undecided, and they were looking for answers. And I think between all of us collectively, we gave them the answers they need. So the goal all along is to have a large turnout of people in this town. There's 22,000 registered voters. We'd like to see them all come. And I think we'll have a very good idea of what the town wants. There's a lot of scene actions going on right now. But also it's very important to all the people that are asking these questions and the rest of the town is to give them as much objective information as possible so they can make a well-informed decision. And I think this committee is doing that. I think that's really good the way we all stay objective and given the facts and stay on either side of this, which is very important. I'm also happy to say the parking lot's been full the last few days. The staff are parking down the road so that we can get as many people in here as possible. As of yesterday, there were over 1,000 so far. So the voting, I'm sure that number's much higher. We're getting about 200 people a day, and it's going up every single day. It's not many days to do this. So I'm expecting the first goal to be met. We'll get a lot of people voting in this election, in this first time already. And I think we should continue to get this information as it's being absorbed.
To follow up just a little bit on that, do we typically, what would a referendum and or a special election turnout be?
So I've asked Susan Flynn. Early voting, we really don't have an indication except for like last year. For a lot of people early. The Susan Flynn measured it anywhere from a low of 6,000 to maybe 12,000 is what the estimate was. It's a broad range, but that's on most elections. If it was a presidential election or something, you get a lot more than that. She thinks it turned out to be very good so far.
I was encouraged by the turnout. It was a pretty miserable morning. Not because of what it was weather-wise. It was pretty miserable. But there was, I thought that there was a good turnout in respect of there being a wide spectrum of folks who were in attendance. We
during the whole presentation. And we heard, and we also heard from a gentleman who remembered very well the construction of the high school on Columbia Street and the discussion around the use of that land. So we got a lot of different perspectives that were brought in, and I can safely say that everyone left with a greater understanding of the issues and a greater grasp of the facts, and everyone was appreciative of that. Whether they were leaning to be in favor of this project or against this project, everybody left feeling better informed. And so, the more opportunities that we have to get that word out, the better off our community is going to be.
Does anybody else have any feedback they want to share? Okay. So, in one of our planning meetings, when we prepare for these meetings, Chris and myself and Mr. Mahoney and folks from Slim and Studio Jade discussed the possibility of having a couple more opportunities to have some forums with our community that aren't as I'll say as large as what we've been experiencing. The idea behind it is every time we have the opportunity to communicate the information out to folks personal and firsthand, just what you described, they're getting the information and they're feeling well informed to make a decision based on their own philosophy, their own ideology, and their own financial situation. It's not, like I said, it's not to sway someone one way or another. It's just these are the facts, this is the project, this is what we're anticipating happening, and then you are armed to make a decision that feels good for you. So in that, we wanted to take it back to the full group to decide if it's something we want to move forward with. We tossed around doing a solely virtual community forum and doing a hybrid. We did land on potentially next Wednesday having a hybrid type of forum, having folks at the high school, because we would need to use the school committee's setup as far as we would want it to be a Zoom scenario so that people who are watching from home can unmute and talk. Obviously, there would be ground rules to that. We're experienced in that over the years. Thank you, COVID. And so it's just an opportunity we wanted to bring to the group and kind of vet out and get your feedback and decide if it is actually something we want to move forward with, because the more people we can communicate with in various vehicles of communication, the better. So I'll kind of leave that open to anybody who wants to chime in or give their opinion, and then go from there. So then we proceed.
On the 7th, Wednesday the 1st at 7 p.m. if you guys would like to.
Yeah, I would be in favor of the most opportunity. The more information we can get out there, the better off we are. What time did you say, Kate?
7 o'clock.
7
That's
o'clock.
what we're floating, and I do believe, and tell me if I'm misspeaking, that we've discussed a little bit with Terry Marcel to see if we could go forward with that.
Yes, and the building is open for that time.
I'd be happy to attend, or coming from a negotiating session with NEASK. So hopefully it'll be wrapped up by then, and I'd be happy to participate.
Does anybody have any? Luke, I'm going to do it.
Brian, because the finances for you to put you on the spot.
And you could be available via Zoom too if you didn't, right? So, and that's the idea, is that it would definitely be interactive online, and different opportunities. So,
Just as a formality, this would be billed as yet
hosting it and running with it, and us kind of being participants.
Okay.
So unless anybody has anything against it, we'll proceed. Great. Still sticking with the public correspondence. We want to talk about the boards. Phil and Studio J and Slim have put together a few more boards / flyers, graphics, however we want to utilize them really. He'll just need guidance as far as how we want to proceed. If we're just going to deal with them digitally, if we're going to print them out, he's ready to do whatever we want with these. But he put together, and Luke is going to blow them up for us on the monitors. And we just, again, he sent them to us, and we wanted to review with the full committee before we move forward with releasing them out to the public at all.
So we had communicated with Phil in one of our Monday meetings about getting more visuals, because I think one of the things we're not really putting out there as much as, although we have a lot of visuals, it's just kind of pasted up on the site. So some of the comments I put forth, and this is from my design background, is like if you're going to show a perspective, tell people where you're showing it from. Give them reference points. One of the successful images that we had at the meetings was these, where we showed the existing outline of the high school, and then we have the new high school next to it, so people get a sense of, okay, as a reference, this is what exists, this is what's proposed. In addition, the athletic field, I think this one is really telling of where the existing track and field is now, the existing Curtis Corner building, and then having a lot of labels and things to self-explain. So if we put this out on social media, on the website, where we print out boards, somebody doesn't necessarily have to be there to sit by it and explain everything that's going on. The other thing he did was add in numbers and view perspective points from where these vantage points of these other images are taken from. So you see now view 3 due southwest from the Hazard Field. So it kind of tells people, okay, number 3, this is the vantage point, which is off the corner cafeteria general area of the existing school. So it's just a way to explain it a little bit better. We also included some verbiage about the outlines and what they mean, and then also about the fact that there's an expectation that the students will remain in place in the existing building until the new building is built, and then the existing building will be raised to then build fields of equivalent size of what exists today. The hope is that this answers a lot of the questions we're currently getting in the project. That's it.
Does anyone have any thoughts on the images, how you could see us utilizing them, setting up boards versus flyers versus digital, sharing or all of the above? I know we've put up some boards around town. I'm not sure how people have received them or not, because once they're up, I don't think they're evangelized, so we need to hear about that. Does anyone have any opinions on these?
Can I just make one? Probably very, if I'm being overboard, please let me know. But the field, can we take the S out of there and make it an SK?
Yeah, that's an old.
It's the old
logo.
I'm doing that, but I just did.
You're not nuts.
If you bring it up, somebody else will.
With the key out. Everyone. Statue, maybe.
That goes on the field house. The statue. So the one thing I would ask is, because to the point of Terry taking a close look, because we have had spelling errors on stuff that's gone out, it's inadvertent, but we look at this stuff on a daily basis, and sometimes we just gloss over it. Does somebody want to serve as like a approver? Second set of eyes to really look at this thing?
It's funny because there was one where all 12 people plus looked at it and it still went out. And I will actually, I think, correct your statement. It's not a spelling error, it's a typo. There's a distinct difference between how to spell
in space that they're going to be left with.
Well, and I'm glad you pointed it out because that is definitely a topic. Like, but we hear a lot of conversation around finances and taxes, but what I often hear is about that field in particular. That people have a hard time grasping the swamp.
There was considerable discussion about that in the cafeteria on Saturday, and that's when people started to think about the value of having that graphic showing the expanse of the field and what the possibilities can be.
It's definitely it's a more compact design, so we just intrinsically get more green space. I know that the neighborhood behind here has had their concerns, but as you can see, I think this is very telling. There's still a significant amount of the existing field that will remain. It's not, I think there was an impression that we're going over to the border, and that's been collapsed somewhat, so there's a significant amount of green space on that neighborhood, which doesn't, frankly, exist now because most of this is parking lot.
I think one of the suggestions I'd go to Phil too is possibly putting that border at the end of the current hazard field and at the top of the image right now, because we see the original building that's there now actually goes off of the highlighted existing. So maybe putting a border showing for the neighbors, for everybody in that area now. There's a huge buffer on the top of the building and then at the end of the hazard field.
The other thing that this morning, something that popped out while we were talking to the folks, because the folks, one of the things that's great about the Rotary Club is that they're all local people, right? And so most of them are local, and they've gone through the iterations to your point of when the original high school was built and what things looked like, and when different buildings and fields were built. And one of the things that I wanted to make clear when we say athletic complex, you kind of feel a community cringe because it's like, well, what do you need another athletic complex for? You have the rec center, you have the YMCA, you have all this. But really, at the end of the day, this is our school district. We need a field. We need a football field. We need a soccer field. We need a track. And the existing, what we're dealing with and where it's located, and I referred to it as the swamp, and everybody in the room knew exactly what I was talking about there. All their heads started going, yep, it's in the swamp, and we called it the swamp, and removing it from the swamp and putting it in putting it in the correct orientation on the, so even having that, but making sure that we are articulating it's not just another athletic complex, it's actually our school district's athletic fields that we need and that our athletes need. So,
I'd just like to add from the recreation department standpoint is the track that the community uses that track.
Aaron's over there all the time. I'm over there all the time, and tons of people walking.
Yes. I mean, the bike path is awesome to walk very early morning, really late. There's some people that are comfortable doing that, so they walk on the track and they get outside, and that's the whole mission of the recreation department, to get people outside. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention pickleball courts, because everybody in this town knows more pickleball courts, and this project delivers that.
that was definitely a topic today as well. I don't play pickleball myself, but I'm too young. So anybody have any other thoughts on these as far as how we should use them, how you feel we should use them, or we should just use them in every medium we can possibly put together? Or are there ones we shouldn't use? Just any thoughts?
Use them early enough. It's just going to be the flyer form, the boards, be the size they are, and getting them out there, putting up their schools and town buildings. But I think the flyer is something they can take home with them, sit down, look it over, show their family, would be the best route to go. And online.
I believe Phil is watching us right now, and so Phil, take note of the logo in the middle of the field, our SK logo. If you need it, reach out, we'll get it to you, and we'll go with the main flyer. So, Does anybody have any other discussion around public correspondence? Have we received any further? Oh, you are correct. I'm sorry. Thank you. All right. Do we have any other comments about public engagement? We'll move on then to public correspondence.
So, in terms of public correspondence, Luke Murray did receive one email from DeWalt questioning Paygo, and it was answered earlier in this meeting, DeWalt, and I know you got an answer to your question as well. DeWalt, you're satisfied? I know he reached out to me too, so I think he got 3 answers, all the same. There was also a second question that I'd like to address with the group. This came in, they asked me not to reveal their name, but did ask me to reveal their question. And basically this question came in, had to do with how many students are currently outside of the district at high school level. I forwarded it over to Ryan Kilpatrick. Ryan responded very quickly that there were 111 students. So the majority of your students that are out of district are at the high school level. 111 students are currently in other high schools. Some students. Another question came in about a maintenance plan. I forwarded that question into Mr. Mahoney. I forwarded that over to Mr. Mahoney, and we also explained in that question, Mr. Mahoney did outline the maintenance plan that they have, and we also discussed about the recent change in RIDE regulations, that in order to receive housing aid, your full amount of housing aid, you must contribute 3% of your operating budget to school maintenance. If you do not do that, there are financial penalties associated with it, and that is specifically done so that the communities across Rhode Island don't end up in the same position that everyone else really is in, to make sure that every single year the community is given the maintenance of their school. So those were the additional questions that came.
Chris, on that topic, could I point out something that I happen to have picked up on, looking at some rhetoric on social media, and it was on that topic where someone was referencing communication that we received from RIDE a year ago as a courtesy, saying, looking at your budget, we have some concerns whether or not you are meeting your maintenance of effort in maintaining your schools. As a courtesy, we'd like to talk to you about this. And the problem with that was that we were certainly spending well above our responsibility, but we had not coded it properly. So as far as RIDE is concerned and our maintenance of effort, that we were not getting credit for the money that we spent. We clarified that we were well within our realm of responsibility in maintaining our facilities. So that was just a letter of courtesy from RIDE to say to us, hey, what's up with South Kingstown? This was in January of 23, and then that situation was rectified. Mr. Mahoney, I know that you were probably completely agree. Close to all of that was rectified very quickly. Exactly, and I did the coding, and again, that comes from RIDE in January. And we are obviously open for business, essentially school until June 20th. So there's many expenses that come in, at that time, after that time that we are making these expenses.
And then we're coding things properly.
I can assure you now that Mr. Mahoney and I, we work very well with our new Chief Financial Officer, and we make sure that all of our expenditures are credited toward that maintenance of effort.
Perfect. Does anybody have any other discussion around public correspondence? So we do have some folks out here, and we are open for public comment at this time. If anybody would like to come up to the microphone and speak their mind. Thrilled. I was going to get nervous. Get a haircut. You get a haircut.
You're good.
Nice try, guys. So, we're going to keep it quiet. I voted early. What was nice about that was that they had at the voting place was this nice brochure here. Local ballot question information. I don't know if you've seen it. And I thought that the explanation in here about on the left side of the page here about the funding, exactly what constitutes, what makes up the $150 million. I thought there was nice with the way it was explained. So it shows the major project components, $12 million for the athletic complex, $131 million for the high school, and $6 million for contingency. But the numbers for the high school and the athletic complex, what they as including a 2.5% construction contingency and a 9.5% escalation. So when you back it off and go back, 131 or so is there for the high school, when you go back to take those numbers out, and it goes back to $117 million. So it's right under millions. So I thought I explained it very nicely. So today, when I was looking at my emails before I came down here, I got an email from the Vote No people. And they're talking about the door-to-door doorknob hanger of information. So then it got me thinking about it. So I got this in the mail a few days ago. My wife, I got this in the mail. But this is not the card that came from the town, right? Right. So the town's card still hasn't arrived. What the heck?
Yesterday, or you can understand that was a last minute effort to get that. It's not like it was planned a month ago. It was a week and a half ago. So, try to get it approved for the campus just had a meeting. It's done. It's in the mail, so you should be getting it.
Okay, but
one thing I guarantee, it could not have been done any faster than it was.
well,
And it's not a tough piece either. There's a line happening. There's a polling station. That's it.
Okay.
If you want one of those cards.
okay, boy. All I'm saying is, I was emailing you guys 6 months ago, telling you need to get something out there. So you should never have come back to this.
So, Doran, if you don't mind, I agree with what you were saying, but at the same time, the folks, what I think is encouraging is folks who know about the bond and pretty much know how they're going to vote. They're already coming out for the early voting, so a postcard isn't going to prompt them. So having it come out when it does is actually good for when the actual election day occurs. right? So I think while you are correct, information should have been out earlier. I think we're still fine.
The voter information guide, where is that available?
So, yeah, I was just going to mention that. So, we couldn't get the voter information guide in last week's instance, so we posted a full page ad in the paper. The warrant is in that paper. And tomorrow, there'll be distributed narratives at times in every paper inside. That exact brochure will be going into the paper. In addition, we'll have those available, which we already do, at the facility. So, I think we're making a concerted effort to push that information out.
But I do request the committee's approval to put the voter information guide on the website with its own tag. Is that allowable, or is it because it's a project website versus
I don't see anything wrong with putting a link to it. It's just more information that. But who created that vote? Is that from the town or is that from the city?
It was a team effort, so it was the numbers were checked by Ryan. I tried to help facilitate the effort. Sue checked. We ran it through our office. So there's a number of hands. Phil actually created the copy as far as the PDF to go to print, and then so it's been to a number of hands in that.
So I don't see anything wrong with linking that, Chris. It's just another piece of information.
I think you'll also be happy to know that there was a suggestion by a member of the community who was to add a contact us button on the website, which is very successful. Talk to people already reach out and contact us form, and the project emails. We certainly, I think we've had 120 people now on the email distribution list for updates. It's certainly much more than it was even just a few weeks ago. So, that gives you any solace. I think you need to.
Thanks. So, one suggestion I have is for our forum next Wednesday. If we could have copies of that, our flyers, everything. Again, so people take it home, digest it, and have it available to them. They go to our website because, again, some people come in the meetings might not have access or virtually through Zoom.
Can we put a pile of this stuff in our libraries? Or have you already? Or can we do that?
I think there's been a wide variety of that happening with certain flyers have been distributed in various places, but again, I don't see the need.
Some of the boards are already in town buildings. They've been distributed, and the flyers, the inserts when they're in the library, in rec center, and other public facing buildings.
Okay. And the last question. May go to Chris. So, when it passes, that's very optimistic. So, if the design is such that it gets us toward a net zero school, would that increase to 52.5? Any at all, or not?
So if the budget, if we went through the construction, so let me tell you a few steps to that process. The first is that you are all going to meet a lovely gentleman. Those who were on the OPM selection committee already met them. His name is Carlos Montanez. He is a professor at Mass Maritime. He's a member of, he's actually the chair of the engineering department at Mass Maritime. He is going to perform a full life cycle cost analysis. He's also going to perform that life cycle cost analysis while also looking at reimbursement strategies from the bipartisan infrastructure law and what's the name called? The Inflation Reduction Act. Because there are certain ways that you can get reimbursement. Now, you have to put the money in first. We're also going to explore funding strategies with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank for that. But bottom line is that this committee will get all of the information possible once we have the CM on board so we can take a look and see what the budget will allow, and more importantly, what makes the most sense from an operational perspective and maximizing the value of the project. So that is a long term. So it goes out, said you wanted to do for a project at Kingsborough Middle School up in Massachusetts. These are very detailed documents that place out exactly how much money you can expect. The issue is, as I'm sure you know, this money is it's kind of like the wind farm money, right? It has been passed into law, but it also needs to make it into a House and Senate budget. So, just like the wind farm money, there's some issues around it. We need to make sure that we clarify that we are absolutely a memorandum of agreement or something that we absolutely are getting from it, because policy politics sometimes delays the release of these funds. And so we want to make sure that we are not going to have anything that we are not going to get fully reimbursed for. Does that make sense?
But there is a possibility that it would go up from 52.5 to maybe 44.
If we build you a net zero school, yes, you'll get 55%. Not only will you get that reimbursement rate, but if it's a net zero school, there is potentially federal government money, a lot of it available as well.
Alright, so moving on to setting next meeting and agenda items. We already discussed having a forum on Wednesday, May 1st, 7 o'clock. We're going to move forward with that. I
Have a recommendation, Kate?
will gladly take your recommendation.
Assuming a positive bond vote on Tuesday the 7th, I would request that we have a school building committee meeting on Thursday the 9th to formally award the construction, or recommend an award of the construction management team to school committee, who then needs to go to town council, the SS school committee, and then town council. So that would be the agenda item that I would see now. Other things might come up. I would also like on an agenda for us to explore hiring additional consultants that are needed for this project, your environmental engineering consultant and your commission leader.
We've been having the meetings, they've bounced around time-wise, 4 or 5. We want to go, we want 4.
4 o'clock, please. I have a fundraiser, shameless plug for the board, and the coffee time on at 6, so I'm going to take a break up to Providence.
Great. So 4 o'clock, May 9th. We should have a meeting no matter what. We might relocate it. Alright, so unless anybody has any other comments, questions, concerns, we can have a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Anyone opposed?